Welcome to the design guide for the new mobile bottom expander unit. Now this is a fun unit. If we do a preview here on the desktop, it's going to give us a large window. If we shrink this window down, it's going to simulate more of what a mobile specific device is going to look like. But basically you have an ad that expands up from whatever footer size you like. We can collapse it back down, but the ad expands from the bottom, covers up your content, and then you can swipe up to up to four different sections to the right. So here if we go swipe once, this particular ad currently has 3 sections, so I could swipe back to the slide 1, 2, or 3. I can have just one slide in here. I could have 2, 3, or 4. That's up to you as the designer. You've got a close button that's going to take it away, and each section has its own clickable click-through URL or tap to call feature built in. So how does this unit work? First we come down to our settings, and you can see you can select the total number of slides. So if you only wanted it to expand up and not have any swipeable slides, we just set this to 1, preview the ad, and now basically you've got one expanding section here. If we close it, it goes back down to the bottom. So that's the first thing. Decide how many swipeable slides, if any, you want here in this expander. Then we come back up to our step 1 media, and we start uploading our content. So you'll notice here in your media you have both footer options for portrait and landscape. I'm going to pull up here a quick phone simulator. So you can see if you rotate this to the right, it's actually going to pull up a different image, whatever landscape image you've uploaded versus rotating left, it's going to swap over to the portrait style image that you've uploaded. And this is good because it's going to optimize the view and the look of your ad based on how the phone is being viewed, portrait or landscape. Therefore, we have 2 different options in here for you to upload imagery. Now for these ads, you've got a collapsed container as the footer and an expanded container as the expanded area for both portrait and landscape. So to start off again, you've got footer portrait media, footer landscape media. If you just had 1 slide instead of 3, you'd just use these first 4. The next 2 are expanded portrait media 1 and expanded landscape media 1. Now you'll also notice that next to each of these we have recommended pixel dimensions for your imagery. For the footer portrait media, we recommend 320 by 50. For the landscape, 480 by 50. That's because each of these ads are going to be showing up on mobile devices, and these are about the minimum widths of most mobile device screens. Some may be bigger, but you don't want to put in an image that's so big that it actually gets cropped on a smaller screen display. So if you're using our recommended widths, you can obviously play with the height. That's not going to be as big of a concern. You could make it bigger than 50 pixels if you wanted, but we recommend sticking to 320 and 480 on the widths for both the portrait and landscape media accordingly. When it comes to heights, obviously, you could right here with, again, the expanded portrait, 320 again on the width. You could go up to 480, even a little bit more potentially, but that's about the max we'd recommend for the height, and then you kind of swap that around for the landscape. 480 on the width and 320 for the expanded height on your landscape media. Now you'll also notice that next to these we have other numbers, and what this is basically telling us are all of these ads are optimized for what's called retina display, which is a high resolution display technique that a lot of mobile devices are now using. And what it does is it basically asks for images that are twice the size that are actually going to be displayed on the screen. It compresses them down when they're viewed for optimal high resolution display. So what we recommend is when you're using these dimensions, 320 by 50 or whatever you've set down here in your settings, you upload images that are exactly 2 times that size. So for the 320 by 50 footer portrait media, we ask you to upload a 640 by 100 image. So you're going to design in Photoshop a 640 by 100 in this case, upload it here, and it's automatically going to get shrunk down to 320 by 50 or whatever you've set as that height and width in your settings. Likewise, the same thing applies to all of your media here. Footer landscape 480 by 50, you're actually going to upload a 960 by 100, which are simply 2 times both of these dimensions. If you have slides 2, 3, and 4, you only ever need to worry about footer imagery for once, basically. One for the portrait, one for the landscape. The rest are all going to be expanded images that you're uploading. So you have expanded portrait media 1, expanded landscape 1, expanded portrait media 2, expanded landscape 2. These are all going to be the same dimensions as your original. Expanded portrait media 3, landscape 3, and portrait and landscape 4. Next up, you've got a close button image. Again, you can design this to be any size. Same thing applies for the Retina display. If you wanted it to be 60 by 60 pixels, you're going to upload a 120 by 120. If you want it to be 30 by 30, you're going to upload a 60 by 60 like we have in this case. Next up, all these ads can always contain video. You can basically select video for this ad to be on any one of the 4 sections. So you could have it be on section 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. You've got a poster image that you can upload for this video, which means what are you going to see on top of the video player before it starts playing or before someone clicks it. You're basically going to set this size to be the same size as whatever you've set the video player to be down here in your settings. And then finally, your video, as always, MP4, 8 megabytes max, and we recommend running it through the online video converter. So once you've uploaded your imagery here, let's come down to our colors. You'll notice there's a footer background color as well as an expanded background color. If you'll notice here in the preview, let's go back down to the collapsed version. To make your ad appear as if it's going full screen, basically if you're viewing it on a device, let's say it's a little bit larger, something like this, and it has area beyond the width of your container, it's going to basically allow it to look like it's still full screen. So in the expanded version, or expanded container in this case, it's actually going to show whatever color you've selected above and to the sides to make the ad appear to be kind of full screen no matter what you're on. Again, if we swipe to the right in this case, we have a black background that takes up the whole thing, and when we close it, we're back to our original here, and you'll notice the bigger the screen gets, the more that footer background color simply expands out to the side. So basically you're going to pick whatever is the general background color of the imagery you've uploaded for both the footer and the expanded imagery separately, and you can separately configure what those colors are going to be here. So again, if we view it on a bigger screen like a tablet, let's say this was a tablet device in this case, something like this size, this would be what the tablet version would look like. You'd probably design a unique tablet image as well to be a little bit more tablet size specific and run that, deliver that separately from your mobile. But that's how the background colors work. Click-throughs, as I mentioned, you basically have one for each section. You can design these to be URL click-throughs like you're seeing here, or we can have it be tap to call. And to do that, we simply flop out HTTPS : with TEL : :/ and then whatever 10-digit number you had. So for instance, 800-555-4545. Now when someone taps on that section, it's automatically going to ask them to call if they want to call that number. So that's an optional configuration you can do here. And finally, we'll go through our custom settings. We already went through the total number of slides. Right now we have 3. If you only wanted 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you can select that here. Would you like the ad to automatically expand on initial render, yes or no? Would you like it to drop a cookie and wait X hours? This is just like all of our other ad units, so you can do that. Would you like a delay on the auto expand? You can adjust the speed at which it expands, the speed at which it collapses. We can adjust the close button. Right now we have a 35 by 35 pixel width and height. Again, if you're going to use your own close button, you're just going to double that and upload a 70 by 70 pixel image for optimal display. You can adjust the close button horizontal and vertical offset. This is going to be from the right edge of your expanded container and the vertical offset from the top edge of your expanded container. Would you like to include video? As I mentioned before, let's say we wanted video on the first slide. Instead of no, we just select one. You can adjust the video player width and height and offset here. So now when I preview the ad, I'm going to have my video that in this case I can click to play. Depending on the device, this may go full screen or not. Those are built into the browsers and the devices you're working on, but other ones are going to be in ad just like you're seeing here. So that's how you configure your video. And then you have your actual dimensions for the portrait and landscape containers here. You've got your portrait collapsed width, portrait collapsed height, portrait expanded container width, expanded height, landscape collapsed width and height, landscape expanded width and height. We recommend leaving these as they are. That's going to give you kind of the optimal mobile conditions for viewing on most devices. You can adjust those though, especially if you want to run a tablet specific version of this. You would increase the height and width to be more tablet compliant on the size. And then finally, if you wanted to turn off those background colors, we could do that so that it doesn't necessarily have to appear full screen. This can look cool as well. So in this case now we've got the ad expanding up and you would see the page content behind here as opposed to being fully opaque with whatever background color you've set. So those are the configuration options for the mobile bottom expander. As always, if you have questions, call us at 866-467-2289.